welcome to Burkhardt Audio. My name is Mads Burkhardt. This video will be all about how to incorporate our brand new SUB10 into your system at home. I will do some different setup tips and tricks depending on your system. You might have our active wireless speakers where you want to use the subwoofers wirelessly as well over WiSA, or maybe you have an integrated amplifier that has pre-out or sub-outs, so how to use it with that. And lastly also how you can incorporate it between a pre-amplifier and a power amplifier. So let's go over some of the different methods now, but let's start with how the app works. Okay, welcome to the app guide. So the first thing, of course, download the Burkhardt app on your iOS or Android device. Then we open the app, we'll do a quick search for what we have here. Right now we have the i150 amplifier, but also the SUB10, so we will just press on the SUB10. This is the start screen, nothing special here. We have the settings tab over here where you can see the system firmware and also what master tuning you have on the sub. You can do the WiSA pairing and the factory reset as well. When we go into this next tab here, we have some of the different settings we can do. If you have the high pass outputs enabled, you will be able to do your crossovers up here for the main speakers, and also the distance for them, so you can correct for the time differences between the subwoofer and the main speakers. And here you can set the high pass filters for that input. So it's pretty simple, and then you press the subwoofer over here where you can set the low pass on that. You can also do that on the back of the sub, but you have two methods or two different ways of doing it, and also set the distance tab from that, which is the distance from you to the sub, and also for the speakers from you to the speakers. And down here we have the automatic loudness control, which is enabled or disabled, and you can choose how aggressive it should be right here. So in a nutshell, it will make the subwoofer sound more alive at very low volumes. Going to the last tab here, which is the big one, where you have the room correction and also the manual EQ that you can plug in. So for the manual EQ, it works just like how it does with our i150 and also the Platinum Hub as well. But you can push in some different filters, and for this, if you are using it only as a sub, you of course only will be able to do EQ on the frequencies it will be playing. But this also allows you to do equalizations for your main speakers if you use the sub in between your preamp and power amp. And that's the same thing goes for when you're using the room correction. So if you want to use the room correction for your main speakers in a normal passive setup, you need to have the subwoofer between the power amp and the preamplifier. But for people that are using it with an integrated amplifier, where you will connect it either from the pre-outs on the amplifier or the sub-outs, the room correction is still very good to use, because it will correct some of the room modes that you might struggle with in your room. Those are always different depending on your room size and how it's built and all that. And most of the bass issues you will have within your room will be within the reach of where you have the subwoofers playing anyway. So it's quite effective to do the room correction on the subwoofer alone. And you will be greeted with this screen where you confirm if you have speakers connected to the high pass outputs on the subwoofers. In this case, no, I don't. And then you'll be greeted with this screen where you can set in how aggressive the room correction should be, where the target curve should be, and that is basically if you feel that you have too much bass, you can adjust this, or too little after you've done the room correction. So you can toy around with what you feel would be the best. In this case, I have a pretty standard room of 35 square meters, so I will just leave this at 0 and the roll-off frequency at 20. So right now, if this was an iPhone instead of an iPad, I could actually use this to do the room correction with. But since I have the Zen microphone here, which I strongly recommend that you add to the subwoofer purchase, we will just power this on. And I have connected this to the Wi-Fi here, so that it has connection with the iPad. And then we will just connect to the Zen phone. Or the Zen mic, not the Zen phone, sorry. Good, now we are actually ready to do the room correction. So for doing the room correction, it will generate noise for 1 minute. You can stop it at any time if you feel like you have covered the room properly. And right now we are ready to do the room correction. I will just move around the room when I'm doing this, and for the sake of the video I will just move it around here so you can see it and the noise that it will give. So let's begin. Now for the best results, we do recommend that you cover the whole room, just not within 1.5 meters from the subwoofer. But right now, for the sake of this video, I'm only going to cover the listening area. It's also very important that the Zen mic or the iPhone can hear the subwoofer, so it needs to be within line of sight, because the subwoofer actually plays up to 1000 Hertz when it's doing the room correction. And then I know that in our room we have this huge peak at just around 40 Hertz, which clearly shows here still, even though I haven't walked around the room while doing the room correction. Then when we're finished, we can press calibrate and it will generate the filter. It will do that within and using the horsepower of the device you're doing it on, right now the iPad. So now it creates a filter, and when it's ready, it's getting transferred from Bluetooth to the subwoofer, and now we can enable and disable it, so we can clearly hear the difference between having the room correction on or off. If we're satisfied with that, we just press finish, and that's how simple it is to do the room correction on the SUB10. And that's basically all the app features that it has. If you need to refresh, you can press the Bookart logo up here as well. So that's the last one. Okay, so let's do the setup process for how you would connect the subwoofer wirelessly if you are using Weiser with any of our active speakers. It could also be any other active speakers that are using Weiser, and you have any given Weiser transmitter. In this case I have the Platinum hub, but it can also be done on the SC15 and all the other Weiser transmitters that are out there. So it's very simple. You simply press and hold the pairing button for a few seconds. Then it starts to flash, indicating that now it is in pairing mode, ready to be paired with a Weiser transmitter. And on the Weiser transmitter, we are pressing the pairing button you have there. And then it will start to flash. Then in a short while, you'll see right now it is connected, with indicating that it has a solid LED on the wireless. Typically for most Weiser transmitters, like the Platinum hub right here, you can do all the DSP functions and the crossovers within that. So in those cases, it's not needed or necessary to do all the things on the back and or within the app of the SUB10. You can do everything from the main app for the Platinum hub in this case. So that's it for how to connect it wirelessly. Here I will try to illustrate how to connect the subwoofer to a normal passive setup. Now in this setup I have my amplifier down here. This is an integrated amplifier, it's our only amplifier, and it has both sub-outs and pre-outs. Now not all amplifiers have sub-outs, but a lot of them have pre-outs, and let's say that your amplifier only have pre-outs in this case. It's very easy to connect it to your system this way. You need RCA cables, phono cables, and simply use it in one of the outputs and connect it to the input on the SUB10. Let's plug in some power, and if you need it to be pushed all the way up against the wall, we do include these RCA 90 degrees connectors, so that it can be pushed all up against the wall. So the next thing we will do is to set a crossover frequency on the subwoofer. Now, as I showed before, you can do this within the app, but you can also do it on the back of the subwoofer. You have this crossover button here where you can change the different crossovers. You do have more options in the app, but if your amplifier have no way of doing high pass and low pass filters in it, and it's just a standard pre-out, then you'll need to figure out how low or deep do your speakers play, and then you'll try to have the subwoofer take over where your speakers, main speakers are starting to roll off. So let's say that your main speakers play down to 60 Hz. Then we'll set this at 60 Hz. And now it needs a lot of work. You need to do a lot of work with level matching it to your speakers. It can take some time, and you also need to adjust the phase to where it needs to be so that the integration sounds very seamless and smooth. And we have a lot of information about how to do this, both in a simple way but also in an advanced way in the manual that comes with the SUB10. So I recommend that you go see that. If you are using two subwoofers, you buy two of them, and it's simple. You just, in this case, this will be the right, and then you'll just plug in another cable. So let's take that. From the other output you have, and going over to the second sub, so it will look like this. So that's actually how simple it is to integrate there. Doing the process of tuning it into a system can be a bit more tricky, but with the distance gauge that you have within the app, it's a big help to get it integrated properly. And also the fully fluid adjustable phase knob you also have. So that's how you will connect it to your integrated amplifier. Okay, so here we're ready with another example of a setup method you can do with the SUB10. Now this will be what I talked about at the beginning, where you'll use the subwoofer in between a preamp and a power amplifier. So in my case here, I have a streamer that also has volume control. That's very important. If you have a streamer without volume control, this will be a little bit more tricky to get to work properly. But to connect this, we will take the output of the streamer, or preamp. The right goes up to the right line in, and the left output goes up to the left. So that's quite easy. So now, the second thing you need to do is that you need to connect the subwoofer's satellite output over to your power amplifier that is then powering your main speakers. So same thing goes for that. Let's just showcase here. The left and right goes to the left and right input on the power amp, and in this case I will just use the I150 as a power amplifier. The smart thing with this setup is that you can utilize all the DSP functions within the SUB10 also for your main speakers. So it will include the room correction, the EQ, and the timing correction you can do with distance. All of that can be utilized for your main speakers as well. So it's a very smart way to incorporate room correction into your existing system. And doing the whole integration process will also be a little bit easier this way. So that is yet another example of how to use it. That was just a few cases of how you can integrate the SUB10 into your system. Now, if your system is different and none of these apply to you, then please email us with a description of your system, and we will help you figure out how you can connect it to your system, because there are many other ways than what I just showed here. So that is all for today, and I will just say thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.